Okay. All right. I think I got this right. Let's see really quick. Looks a little bit darker on my end. Try to brighten it up a little bit. All right. So, testing, testing. Can everybody hear me? Let's see. All right, let's see. Sounds good. Okay. Okay, great. Great. It sounds good. Okay, cool. Yeah, I was having some issues earlier because I guess like going live on the phone is or going live on the computer is completely different from going live on the phone. It's like it's wanting me to force me to go live on the phone and shit. And so I'm just like, okay, let me try to do this on the computer. So I had to start a whole new stream. So but I think I'm good though. Let me just double check. Let me double check, and I think I might have to get rid of the other stream. Anyways, glad you're here. Glad you're here. Sorry about the delay. I'm still kind of figuring all this stuff out. But let's go to the chapter. I didn't even have all this stuff set up because of these issues. I was just trying to get the stream right. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. All right. I'm glad I was able to actually get up though. All right. No, I know I suck right now because I haven't gotten all this stuff set up, but just bear with me for a moment. What the hell is going on? Why can't I find what the fuck? Okay, I should be able to find it now. All right, all right, all right. I should be able to find this shit here in a second. Just a little dumb. Okay, okay. I'm good. I'm good. All right, all right, all right. So let's just get started. So we know where we had left off. We left off with. Let me see if I can get this one. Do a little bit of a. Okay. Okay. Cool. Cool. Oh wait, they can't have me. Wait. All right. There we go. Okay. All right. Cool. So we know we had left off last time. Okay. It looks like we're going back to Eleanor. So Eleanor, she's gonna get her level up in the Relic Tombs, man. I'm excited. I'm excited about it. So I thought that we was gonna actually continue on with what had happened with what was her name? Shit. Um with all the stuff that happened with Cecilia and Nico and her memories and stuff. But apparently we're not gonna get that. We're just gonna go back. I mean, it would have been cool if they did actually just continue from there because I really want her to get her memories back. But we're going back to Eleanor Lewin. So what's up? What's up, Marcin? What's up? How's it going? How's it going? Glad to have you out here. But yeah, so I'm gonna just get in with the chapter. So this chapter 414, school in session. School's in session. So that's cool. So Eleanor Lewin. All right. So this would be much easier if we just flew, Micah said grumpily as she wiped the glob of okay, cool, cool, cool. Appreciate it. She wiped the glob of blackish, greenish sludge from her face, all that remained of yet another beast that had attacked us. Okay, you can't simply bypass the rigors of the relic tombs, Lyra pointed out, sounding exactly like a school teacher. The point is to ascend through them, defeat their challenges, not circumventing them. Otherwise, you gain nothing. Besides, flight is mana intensive, so you'll need to learn to conserve your strength. Right. Oh, I'm sorry, Michael Scoff. I didn't realize this was a day trip to Kooky School. But don't even know what the hell that means. Something flopped in the muck to our right, and my head twitched nervously in that direction. The light in the zone was diffused and hazy, making visibility weird. The green murk hid the distant walls and ceilings, giving the uncomfortable impression that the place just went on forever and ever. It also swallowed sound, making it difficult for me to tell whether it came from the right side of, or whether it came from the right beside us or halfway across the zone. The smell was the worst, though, like boiling rotten eggs covered layered over moldy manure and decomposing animals. That's crazy. This might be the first time I didn't appreciate having your enhanced senses, big guy, I muttered, patting Boo on the back. He rumbled, so are they flying? I wonder if they're flying, because he said that you need to conserve your energy. Anyway, he rumbled back, agreeing. My bond with Boo made the best scout and lookout, and so I was sitting on top of him and watching for signs of geishas exploding or terror leeches, a name I'd invented myself attacking from beneath the acidic pools while also scanning the horizon for any sign of an exit. Man, this is so crazy just to think about the fact that Ellie is in the Relic Tombs with Arthur, and then we also got shit, what is her name? Micah. We also got Lyra there. We also got Regis. Like this is so crazy the fact that they're all there with him. I wouldn't need to conserve mana if Arthur would just show us the way through this place, Michael went on, her knuckles creaking audibly around the haft of her hammer. She always carrying around that big ass hammer. Think of it as your first test, Arthur answered humorously. Catching sight of a dim glimmer through the gloom, I pointed it out to the others. I think that shiny thing over there might be a portal. Michael floated up off the ground and squinted in that direction. Micah doesn't. I don't see. So she really okay. So she's really actually changing because I talked about this before. So she's changing from being that whole third person talking about things, Micah this, Micah that, to where she's actually changing. She's saying, "I don't see anything." I wonder what made her change. Like, cause that was a big I guess a personality trait that she had because she always talked about herself in the third person, but now she's like forcing herself not to do that anymore, which I wonder why. I wonder if she went through something and it made her decide to stop doing it, or maybe she talked to her dad or something. I'm not sure. Regis chortled in amusement. Then that means we made the right choice in making Eagle Scout here our scout. Oh no, Eagle Eyes here our scout. Oh, Lyra, I burst out, catching sight of a crimson ball of slime oozing its way up the back of her boot. Her head snapped around. She quickly followed the line of my wide-eyed gaze to the blood slug. Her hand scythed down, and a blade of wind sliced the thing off her. With a sharp stomp, she crushed it. A circle of blood spread around her foot like a gory halo. You're all getting distracted, Arthur said, his arms crossed and one brow raised judgmentally. Focus. Lyra nodded deeply, almost like a shallow bow. Of course, Regent Leywin, you are correct. During an ascent, one member of the team should always be given leadership authority, even among freshly forged groups, I would suggest. Micah scoffed for about the 100th time and spun towards Lyra, but before she could speak, a massive tentacle snapped out of the pool of acid she was hovering above. I gasped and fumbled with my bow as it wrapped around her leg. Oh, Rock and Root, get off me, she snapped, swinging her conjuring hammer into the slimy appendage. Instead of bursting, the tentacle seemed to stretch, absorbing the impact. As it stretched, it sort of melted, coming apart and stick. So we're getting a lot of like details of just exactly some of the slimy like goo stuff and acidic pools that they were near. I remember they were talking about like acidic slime and like how they had to like shield themselves from the acid and stuff like that too. So we're getting a lot of details as far as I don't know. I'm just so anxious for like new stuff to happen. It's just kind of like I'm just like ready. But anyway, so it stretched as it melted, coming apart in sticky strands that very obviously defied the normal laws of nature. Then solidified again in a loop around the hammer, trapping it while still holding Micah. Tendrils of smoke were rising from wherever the acidic tentacle touched her. I drew the string of my bow and mana formed into a white beam of light, knocked against the string with the twang of release. The arrow drew a bright line through the murky air and struck the tentacle with a wet thump. So she's contributing, so that's good. Michael pulled against the tentacle, attempting to fly upward and break its grip, but it somehow resisted even the strength of a lance. Stone, I wonder how strong are these creatures going to be? Because we got all these powerful people in here, but yet, I mean, we're getting tentacles, we're getting acid, but like, I mean, it should be some crazy ass, like gigantic beast that they all got to like work together to bring down. I mean, because they are crazy strong if you just combine their strength. But anyway, so Stone Strikes thrust up from under the surface of the water. That's funny. Stone spikes thrust up from under the surface of the water, each one pointing in a slightly different direction, many piercing the not quite real looking tentacle, but it still held onto her. The air began to vibrate. The noise this made was so low I doubted anyone but me could hear it. I mean, her senses are good, but like there's no way she's the only one that can hear it. For a second, I wondered what kind of new monstrosity was attacking us. But then I sensed the mana pouring out of Lyra and into the tentacle. I held my breath for a second as I waited for something to happen. Then the tentacle burst apart into a shower of inky, slithering snot blobs. Boo lurched beneath me, dodging the splattering of the stuff. Gross, Micah said, shaking like a wet dog as she brushed the hissing slime and bits of tentacle off her. See, Lance? Lyra said with a poorly suppressed smirk. It all comes down to knowledge and your ability to act on said knowledge without panicking. I was able to save you because I wasn't panicking. Micah practically shouted, followed quickly by, "And you didn't save me." I jumped so hard I nearly fell off Boo's back as a flash of violet light suddenly filled the zone, accompanied by a bonfire roar. I looked away, but not quickly enough, and suddenly found myself blinking rapidly as tears came to my stinging eyes. Boo grumbled, backpedaling away from the light and bumping into Reach. I thought this was Arthur with the black lightning or the violet light, but maybe it's not because he has like lightning. And bumping into Regis, who had been walking just behind and beside us. The huge shadow wolf was knocked sideways, sliding down the edge of the raised lip of dirt we had been following until his paws hit the burning goop that filled the pool. Where Arthur is at? See, here's another thing. When you have all these characters like in just one scene, it's really hard to get everybody enough like dialogue and screen time. Because I'm just saying to myself, like, where's Arthur at? Arthur needs to be doing more talking. But I understand that we're from, Ellie's point of view, so it's gonna be from her perspective. Um, so where am I at? I turned back in time to see dozens of wiggling bits of exploded tentacle dissolving back into the acidic pool, blown away from Lyra by Arthur's etheric blast. I'm sorry, I said immediately, the words directed somewhere between the cursing Regis and glowering Arthur. I should have seen that those bits were still moving and alive. Regis was grumbling as he crawled back up the slope, his paws sizzling. What a total cluster. Arthur gave a glare his what was he gonna say? Cluster F word, man. Oh, that's man, Regis. Arthur gave a glare his way, and the Shadow Wolf's jaw snapped shut. Boo, what is he not allowed to curse in front of Ellie? Is that what it is? Boo gave a quiet grumble, and Regis shook his head in response. I know, right? Micah had landed back on the ground, and both her and Lyra were looking at Arthur sheepishly. For some reason, Ellie is the one apologizing, even though she's actually doing the task she's been given, Arthur said pointedly. He ran his fingers through his hair and sighed. Lyra, you've been in the Relatoons before, but never with me and Micah. You're used to the Beast Glades where there isn't much you can't handle. This place is different. The strength of the monsters grows with the people inside, and this whole place is adapted to my presence. You can't rely on just brute forcing your way past every encounter. You have to be strategic. Fight smart. The Relic Tombs is designed to test you or kill you. Micah lifted her chin and met my brother's eyes unflinchingly. I'm not afraid of anything, and I'm not afraid of anything this place can throw at me. I mean, yeah, she's gonna have ego and confidence because she's a Lance, so that's for sure. Um, Micah lifted her chin and met my brother's eyes unflinchingly. I'm not afraid. So Lyra scoffed, but cut off at a warning look from my brother. But that's part of the problem. You have no idea what this place can do, and I need you to understand why you're even here. Ellie is traveling with me so she can practice her new ability, and Lyra needs to be kept close to me because I can't trust to leave someone as powerful as her locked up anywhere. Thanks for that vote of confidence, she said under her breath. I mean, oh my God. Like, man, Micah's ego is just crazy. Like, she can barely beat not scythe, a retainer. Like, what do you like? I don't know. And then everybody's not even there because I think that Byron's there, and then Micah was there, but then what's her face? She ended up leaving, so it only had two of the lances that was even there. But Micah is just. Ugh. As Arthur was speaking, I watched another blood slug start to crawl up the back of Micah's leg. Micah, you've got to. She grabbed and pulsated red lumps in one hand, gritted her teeth and squeezed. Crimson pulp oozed out between her fingers. I understand, she said, tossing the mess into a closet pool or to the closest pool of acid with a heavy splash. All right, let's get moving again then, Arthur said, gesturing for Micah and Lyra to take the lead. Moving together, they started off in the direction I'd indicated. Arthur immediately lit up like a dim violet light. His blonde hair. Okay, so they're calling it blonde now. It's not like a. Anyway, hair floating up from his head. I watched him curiously. Even though I'd seen it several times now, it was still kind of eerie. Arthur already looked so different than before he disappeared, and the strange rooms only highlighted his alien nature. With Realmheart active, his head shifted from side to side, up and down, scanning our surroundings. As we passed the pool, I was distracted by something strange. My arrow, the one I shot at the tentacle, grabbed Micah, was floating on the surface of the acid. Boo, sensing my attention shifting, stopped and let out a grunt. What's up? Regis asked, staring hard in the pool, perhaps expecting some other monstrous manifestation to jump out at us. Nothing. It's just mentally I reached for the arrow. I could feel it. Since the mana still compacted into that form, my regalia tingled, and I realized the arrow was still tethered to me by the spell form. I purposely released that tether, and the arrow dissolved, the mana dispersing. Wait, so what just happened? Nothing. It's just so. What's up? Regis asked. So my arrow, the one I shot at the tentacle grabber Michael, was floating on the surface of the acid pool, sensing my attention shifting. Stopped and letting out a grunt. Mentally, I reached for the arrow. I could feel it. Since the mana, I could feel it. Since the mana still compacted into that form, my regalia tingled, and I realized the arrow was still tethered to me by the spell form. I purposely reached that tether, and the arrow dissolved. The mana dispersing. That's weird. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what happened. I guess something's going on with her regalia and her arrow. Boo whined, informing me that the others had moved on ahead. Go on, catch up, I said, but my thoughts stayed with the arrow. I'd always had a talent for forming my pure, elementless mana into shapes outside of my body, although I didn't do it often. Practicing making shapes with Arthur had really helped me to extend the range and power of my arrows. And Helen had taught me how to shoot a mana arrow that formed into a protective shield around the target instead of harming them. All the abilities I ever learned required me to focus and keep channeling mana. Otherwise, the effect ended. So wait, is the mana? So she wasn't channeling mana, and the arrow still like stayed in place, like I guess like waiting for her to like tell it what to do or something like that. That's what I'm guessing. That's why she finds it to be so weird. Holding out my hand, I pictured a ball. As mana flowed from my core to my palm, the ball appeared, formed of the glowing, formed of glowing white mana. I tossed the ball aside. Then it splashed into one of the pools. It bobbed up and down for a moment, and then was battered aside as a tentacle slithered around across the acid surface. Don't disturb the pools, Arthur said over his shoulder, his voice vibrating with energy channeled by Remhart. Sorry, I said immediately, biting my lip. She's trying to figure out what the hell is going on with her mana. In my hands, I conjure another ball, taking my focus away from the first, but I was careful not to actively dismiss the innate connection my regalia remained with it. So her regalia is like, I guess, is being connected with her mana that she makes, her pure mana that she makes. And so the ball is still floating in that pool of acid. And now she's making a second ball, and she's trying to see if she can just keep all these balls and all this stuff focused. Okay. Even though my focus was on the ball in my hands, I could still sense the other one. I could still sense the other one floating in the acid. Somewhere up ahead, Lyra shouted, and Micah struck down a terror leech in her huge hand. It's funny how like she's practically in this dangerous situation, yet she's experimenting and trying to figure stuff out. I mean, I know she realizes that the other people is there to protect her, but she's still trying to. I don't know. It's kind of just made me think about the fact that she's in this dangerous situation, but yet she's willing to like experiment, trying to figure out what's going on. Her focus is not really. She's not even really paying attention to everything that's going on. But yeah, I mean, we need to get more. We need to get more Ellie power ups. Figure out, is she going to get like a actual? Is she going to get like an actual element, or is it just going to be elementless mana? I mean, she's got to get an element at some point, right? Let's see what you guys are saying. Ellie's going to have Yondu effects. I would say she's also going to be making her own. Okay, yeah, she needs to train and get this regalia mastered so that way, because we still don't even know the potential of what this regalia can actually do. So we're still kind of learning. So he said, don't disturb the pools. So she conjured another ball, focusing on that, but then not really, alleviating her focus with the other ball. Somewhere up her head, Lyra shouted, and Michael struck down the terror leech with her huge hammer. Dismissing the spears in my hand, I twisted around on Boo to better see the other ball, which was now about 50 feet behind me. So that ball is still active, which is abnormal. The draw on my mana was barely noticeable. Oh, it's still drawing on her mana. Okay. But the form seemed unaffected by my lack of focus. Curious, I attempted to manipulate the physical structure of the spear. The mana exploded, causing a burst of energy that sent acid spraying up in the air like a miniature geisha. I spun around, my gaze jumping guiltily at Arthur, but he dismissed the noise after a perfunctory glance, apparently mistaking it for the one of the many natural geishas that were going off constantly. That was pretty cool, Regis said. So Regis is paying attention, plotting up to walk next to Boo as the path widened briefly. You were using your spell form, right? Oh, yeah, I said, feeling awkward. I'm not really sure what it's doing though, or what I'm doing with it. The rotten egg smell intensified, drawing my attention to small bubbles forming on the surface of the pool next to us on our left. I see somebody said W chapter. I mean, yeah. I hope. I mean, so far we're kind of going slow. We're just kind of just getting like a it's kind of like a slow burn type of thing going on now. But I'm sure it'll pick up at some point. Um. So yeah. So she said she was feeling awkward. The rotten egg smell as the earthen wall sprouted from the ground, curving over us like a half arch, and I held the spray of sludgy water on the other side. Thanks, Micah shot back over her shoulder. Try again, Regis suggested after the noise had passed. I thought about what I wanted to do for a moment, then began shaping the mana. So, yeah, she's just experimenting. When I was ready, I tossed it onto the path behind us, but maintained active focus on it, attempting to continue to manipulate the shape so that it had moved with us. A small blob with four stubs, four legs trotted stiffly after Boo, and Regis glowing white in the dim light. I turned around so I wasn't looking at the conjured figure and scanned our surroundings. When I found wait. So is this something she created? A small blob with four stubs for legs trotted stiffly after Boo and Regis, glowing white in the dim light. So yeah, this is what she did. I think this is what she did, if I'm not mistaken. I tossed it onto the path behind us and maintained active focus on it. So yeah, so she's creating some sort of like sentient, not sentient, but like some sort of being to like follow them around. She's really this is crazy, man. The potential that she has. Okay, I turned around so I wasn't looking at the conjured figure and scanning our surroundings. When they found what I was looking for, I drew my bow, conjured an arrow, and loosed. The white beam of mana thucked into a fat blob, a fat blood slug. Goodness, that was hunkered at the edge of the path, ready to latch on to the first thing to get close enough. Okay, nice shot, Lyra said, kicking the remains down the ledge. Quickly looking behind me, I saw that the four-legged blob. I saw that the four-legged blob had stopped moving. It was still there, frozen, with its stubby legs lifted as if it was in the middle of taking a step, but was no longer following us. I tried to start it moving again, but like the sphere in the pool, it burst, creating a nova of mana that exploded outward for several feet before dissipating. So what exactly is going on with with her creations that she's making? It's not a range. Is it a range thing? It's like whenever she tries to like get it to move or do something, it just like the mana just explodes. Hmm. Okay. The mana held its shape after I stopped focusing on it, but it didn't. But it doesn't seem to be able to reconnect with it. When I try to change the shape again, it collapses. I told Regis, "Wait, it collapses." I told Regis, glad to have someone to bounce my ideas off of. Collapses or explodes, Regis shot back. Yeah, it explodes, giving me a wolfish grin. Maybe it's just because I'm a walking, talking weapon, but I wonder, can you make something burst with more energy than that? If you compact a larger amount of mana into the shape or forge it with the intent that it, goes boom. I giggled at the excitement in his tone, but went quiet when Arthur cocked his head. Arthur is always paying attention, man. Arthur cocked his head, turning his ear back towards me. Is right now really the best time to be playing around with your power? I asked myself with Arthur's voice. What if I draw in a bunch of more of those monsters or something goes wrong, like Lyra said, and I go into backlash? As I consider this, I notice the golden glow emanating from Arthur's lower back glow brighter. What's he doing? I asked aloud, mostly to myself. Meditating, Regis answered. He's been focusing on dicat. Wait, what? He's been focusing on decathlon and haven't made much effort to continue improving himself lately. This isn't just a chance for you and the insane dwarf. He's calling her insane. Dwarf team is his too. I set my jaw. That made sense. And if even my invincible God killing brother was doing what he could to train and become stronger, I had to too. I didn't worry. I didn't worry much about the physical form, just shape the mana into a kind of rough, flat, very dense disc. When I was satisfied, I tossed the disc. So she's making all these different types of shapes. She's making discs, she's making spheres, she's making like little animal type things, and they all are exploding. So okay, it landed on the hard dirt with a quiet thud. Inside my head, I disengaged my focus from the mana, but left the tether with my regalia intact. I'm really curious how does her regalia relate to her making these spheres, because she's always been able to do that, but it seems like her regalia is also like affecting it in some way. I guess it's affecting it to where she can actually have it be still active without actually controlling it, which she talked about she's never been able to do that before. Okay, this time I waited until we were almost 100 feet away. There was a dull aching sensation coming from the spell form by then. I was nearing the outer range of the tether. That's good to know. Instead of just trying to change the mana's shape, I specifically attempted to force the mana outward, imagining it as a violent explosion. A huge boom shook the ground and tore the raised lip of solid ground apart, collapsing it into the acid pools on either side. So this is even a bigger explosion. Three gauges went off one right after another. Oh, so she's setting off a chain reaction? Three gauges went off one after the other, set off by the explosion, and several terror leeches and huge tentacles burst out of the acid to slither towards the wreckage. What was that? Micah asked, flying back over us and hovering between me and the site of the explosion. Sorry, I squeaked, my heart fluttering in my chest. I didn't think it would be so panicking. I pointed at Reach. It was his idea. Oh my god, a child. Um, the Shadow Wolf barked out a gleeful, manic laugh. Hell yeah, it was. Arthur was beside me, one hand resting on Boo. He stopped channeling his god runes, and the alien light that had infused him was gone. You did that, he asked, his piercing golden eyes tracking over the collapsed patch of trail. How? A little, a little, what is that? Haltingly? I explained that I had noticed about the arrow. This is weird. I noticed about the arrow and discoveries that had spiraled from that observation. As I talked, Arthur activated Realm Heart again, creating something. He suggested, create something. He suggested, watching me carefully. I forward another ball. Oh yeah, so now we're getting the Arthur expertise. He's going to be looking at this and be able to give her some tips and better explain exactly what's going on. So I formed another ball, but paused before I did anything with it, tilting my head slightly to the side. I listened. Does anyone else feel that? I formed another ball, but paused before I did anything with it, tilting my head slightly to the side. I listened. Does anyone else feel that? Yeah, yeah, she's learning. She's learning. You know, Ellie's learning. Like as she, like I said, this is all just like a big experiment. She's testing out her powers. I mean, this is her first time getting the regalia. You know, she's trying to adapt to it. You know, like Agrona said, evolution, right? Evolution becomes opportunity, and opportunity power. So this is what's happening. Suddenly, the ground where my mana main had gone off, ripped apart. Wait, suddenly the ground where my Manamane, right, the little animal, had gone off, ripped apart, churning as if being swarmed by Darvish sand sharks. The handful of terror leeches still milling around the spot disappeared into the ground, where their bodies were pulverized by something I couldn't see. Oh my God, are we getting some crazy ass beast that's about to be coming? So Lyra hurried to Micah's side. Between me and the cacophony. Oh my God, what word is this? The cacophony. I do not know this word. Can I read it? Can I read it? Can I read it? Involving or producing a harsh, discordant mixture of sounds. Cacophonous. That's what that word is. Cacophonous. We're learning together. Between me and the cacophonous sound or noise, Reed just started forward with him, but he stopped. Shot Arthur a questioning look, then shrugged his shoulders helplessly. As the ground gave way, something started to surface from behind it. A worm like body rose up and up, rivers of muddy acid running down its shiny crimson. Is that carapace? Carapace? I think that's how you said that. We can we can hear this too.
Carapace.
Carapace, I was right. All right, it was as tall as an Elshire tree before it stopped growing, and I had to wonder how much of it was still hidden beneath the ground. It didn't have a head, only a huge hole for a mouth. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of that what they're describing. It reminds me of that that card. Y'all remember from like Yu-Gi-Oh? Remember like the animal with like the teeth and like the big ass hole. It doesn't have like a head, but like it's like a big mouth, and it like tunnels into the ground and shit like that. It was one of those Yu-Gi-Oh monsters, but that's what it reminds me of that she's talking about. So a huge hole for a mouth filled with rows and rows of triangular teeth that rotated around within the chasm of his mouth, like one of the Master Gideon's crazy inventions. Even Micah didn't have anything flippant to say as we all started, or as we all stared at the humongous monster. The gaping maw bent towards us, unleashing a roar so loud I had to cover my ears with my hand. Three tentacles slithered out of his mouth, each one covered with dozens of smaller, tooth-filled sets of jaws. Just like the terror leeches, thus tentacles swayed back and forth, each one letting out a low, irritating hissing noise. Work together, Arthur said. Ellie, you stay back. Regis will be at your side. Let's get it done then, Micah said, cocking back her arm. See, I want to really find out like how strong these monsters are, because it seems like all these monsters are just kind of like they're like easily dealing with them. But I don't know if it's gonna be a thing where it's just like a I guess like quantity of different monsters, and that's what's going to slow them down, or is it going to be quality like this big monster that we're seeing now? They have to work together to bring down. But right now, it seems like they got to work together. It hit one of the leech tentacles and burst straight through, only to turn in the air and zoom back to her hand. Huh? Maybe this won't be too hard after all. As Michael words, so once you start thinking that, it's gonna be harder than what you think. As Michael's words trailed off, the several tentacles, is it a tongue or maybe a head, began to grow back. It stumped, dividing into two at the base and forming twin leech tentacle head things. What the hell? Oh, great, Michael muttered. Um, as one, the four heads reared back and sprayed streams of swampy green acidic slime from all their mouths. Jogging, jagged black lines scored the air with a noise like nails on glass, shielding us from the attack. Whenever the acid touched the back lines or the black lines, it sizzled, seemed to be pulled apart into its base components, steam rising and clear water falling as the mana was stabilized. Okay, but all the noise was drawing other things too. More terror leeches and blood slugs were swarming through the pools of acid in our direction, coming from all sides. With a battle cry, Micah threw herself into the air, moving like a ballista bolt. She spun midair, her hammer swelling with mana as she enhanced gravity pull on it. As she enhanced gravity's pull on it, until she collided with the two freshly grown leech heads. They burst apart like sacks of half melted butter, spraying acid in every direction, including all over Micah herself. She gasped in pain, but didn't slow down as she redirected her hammer, swinging at one of the. So she's getting hurt, swinging at one of the two remaining heads, but it slithered away from the blow, which missed, while the other head snaked around behind her. It seems like she's trying to do everything herself at this point. She needs to start working together, like Arthur has said. Um. So where am I at? Low irritating hissing noise. Oh great. Okay, here's my bad. They burst apart, and then the other stock sneaked behind her. From the corner of my eye, I saw a black slash bisect the attacking head, so that it peeled apart down the middle, flopping grotesquely. But I had my arrow trained on one of the terror leeches speeding towards us. Waiting for it to crest up out of the thick acid, I aimed for one of the many mouths and loosed. My aim was precise, and the arrow sank into the rubbery flesh and out of sight. But the leech kept coming. Okay, so maybe she can make that arrow burst apart like how she did with all her other things, and now I'll be able to kill it. It kept coming. Boom, Regis said, an unnerving gleam in his eyes. Oh, so this is Regis even saying, letting her know, like, boom, blow it up. Following his meaning, I focused on the tether of mana connecting me to the arrow and pushed outward on the mana. Inside the terrorist, that's cool. That's cool as shit. Inside the terrorist leech, my arrow burst apart with a bass heavy, not thump, but hump, or I don't even know how you pronounce that. The monster's inside swelled with the force, then collapsed inward like a deflated water skin, and it tumbled end over end for a couple of seconds before splashing to a stop, floating on the acid surface. That's cool as shit. I was thinking that as soon as she shot that arrow and didn't do shit, I'm just like, oh yeah, make it explode. Thinking the exact same thing. That's cool as shit. But it all felt, I know, right? This is why Regis, just to respond to you, Marcin. This is why Regis is my what is it called? My picture or whatever. Regis is probably my favorite character. Like ever since Regis showed up, this story just got so much better. Like I'm to the point where now I like Regis a little bit more than I like Sylvie. Like, I mean, I don't know. It's been a minute. It's been a minute since we've seen Sylvie's interaction with Arthur, but like Regis, man, Regis with the jokes, the humor, how crude he is. I don't know, just like his powers and him being a wolf, that's cool as shit. You know, like the whole dynamic between Regis and Arthur is really dope as far as like, you know, Arthur looking at him as a weapon, but then starting to grow fond of him, and then Regis understanding like, oh, I need to be strong enough. You know, Arthur, you're getting too strong, and I'm not even. What use am I for a weapon if you're way stronger than me? So him trying to get stronger and shit too. So yeah, the whole Regis and Arthur dynamic is just dope. Anyway, um, but it all felt like it was growing dread as dozens more followed behind it. There are too many. But all I felt was a growing dread of dozens too many. Or to compound this, the giant Hydra worm had gone from 4 heads to 7. So this thing is just continuously multiplying. Micah was fiddling around between them, dodging, spraying acid, and snapping mouths, striking instead at the towering, wormy body. But her blows hardly seemed to do any damage. I released arrow after arrow, each one bursting within a terror leech body and stopping it in its tracks. On the other side of the path, Arthur had started unleashing etheric blasts to fend off the swarm of monsters from that direction. A scream drew my attention back at the Hydra worm. One of the heads had finally caught Micah. Oh my god, Micah, Lord. Like, how is she getting in danger before Ellie's getting in danger? This shit don't even make any sense. You a Lance. Several miles biting down on her legs and torso. When she drew her hammer back to strike it, her hammer is lame. I just don't like her hammer, bro. Like that's the only thing she got. She just got a hammer. Like get a sword or like a spear or like I don't know some kunai knives or something. Use the gravity to make those not like I don't know. I don't know. Micah could be cooler, but she's just like she was literally the one lance that I didn't really want to come with her. I'm just like, okay, well, Byron would be cool as shit. Seeing lightning and shit going all over the place, him flying around, him using Tacey's spear, that would be cool as hell. But, you know, he wanted to stay there and protect our boy Virion. So, I mean, I can't really blame him for that. And then I can't think of the remind me, what's the Icelander's name? Veray. I already know. In Veray, we couldn't have Veray because she's going to investigate other stuff. So we literally we were just left with Micah. And that's just what we got. But, it is what it is. So Lyra slashed her hand through the air, but yet another head moved to intercept the spell. The backslash sheared the tentacle-like head from the body, and two more grew in its place. So every time they slashed his head, it just grows back multiple heads. So what we're now at 8. My heart was racing, and I could feel the panic start to cloud my mind. Drawing my bowstring, I conjured 2 arrows and used my index finger to part them slightly, giving them different angles. Focusing on maintaining both arrows separately, I took my shot. The bright white beams flew just inside the 2 newly formed heads. One sank into the mouth of the trunk, holding Micah, but the second missed its mark, impacting against the thick flesh of the second head, which had pinned her hammer. Both arrows burst in a shockwave of mana. The head biting Micah shivered and went limp, while the second was jarred forcefully enough that it released her weapon. Wasting no time, Micah shot straight up into the air, only to be followed by several arcing streams of acidic slime. Spinning, she hurled her hammer straight down. Even from 100 feet away, I felt the swelling of its gravity and watched as it flew faster and faster until it vanished into the writhing mass of tentacle-like heads. Let's see. The ground shook as the hammer impacted somewhere deep inside the Hydra's worm's body. It squealed, the humming of his many heads taking on a sickening resonance as it was amplified several times over. My stomach churned, and I distantly felt my body wobble atop Boo's back. With unfocused eyes, I watched. I watched as 2 more heads grew, splitting off the trunk of the limp head that I shot free. That I shot to free Micah. There were so many I could no longer count them. Okay, so how are they going to kill this thing? And why? And Arthur hasn't done anything yet. He's just chilling. He's just like, I'm gonna let y'all kind of do what y'all do. Lyra spun, sending a what the hell is this? A vitriolic glare at Arthur. Her voice was barely audible over the continued screeching. Lessons. So this is what's going on. Arthur actually is letting them do what they're doing, so that way, he's letting them do what they do to kind of give them like they're pretty much he's letting them train, letting them handle this and see how they do. And so this is Lyra understanding what's going on, and she's kind of giving Arthur a glare. Her voice was barely audible over the continuous screeching. Lessons will help none of us if we are all dead. This beast is matched to your strength, not ours. The ground shook again. The Hydra worm the Hydra worm was lunging upward towards Micah, growing taller and taller as his many heads strained after her. She flew straight up until her small form disappeared into the gloom and the fog. The beast on her heels was 60 feet tall, then 80, then 100. Arthur didn't respond, but something in his posture changed. Then he was gone, vanished into a bolt of amethyst lightning. Man, this is so crazy. What do you guys say? This is all, but with Byron, no Micah. Well, enemy thing is pretty past now. Yeah, they're not really enemies anymore. I mean, pretty much they're getting clapped. I mean, that just shows the strength difference between Arthur and Micah and Lyra. But yeah, but like she said, the beast is compared because like every time they, so how would he kill it? Because he can't just chop off heads, right? Will he use Realm Heart somehow? I'm kind of curious how Arthur would defeat this monster. Have I read volume 8.5? Yeah, I have read that. The whole story with what's her name? Flamesworth, Jasmine Flamesworth, and her finding the elf girl and all that stuff, and people's reactions to Arthur. Yeah, I read 8.5. But anyway, Arthur didn't respond, but something in his posture changed. He was gone. Regis jumped into action at the same time, his jaw opening and purple fire rolling out over the oncoming horde of terror leeches. Whatever the fire touched vanished. Not even ash remained. My brother had reappeared above the Hydra worm, his distant body wrapped in coiling arcs of purple lightning, a beam of pure violet energy in his hand. Although I should have been helping Regis, I couldn't do anything but watch. All my focus on Arthur. His blade spun in an arc, severing several of the heads, but the huge maw from which they all grew was still rising, and I could picture how those spinning rows of teeth were closing around Arthur. At first, I thought it was a trick of the light, but by squinting and focusing mana into my eyes, I realized the truth. Arthur's sword was growing. We haven't seen this before, have we? Arthur's sword was growing, lengthening into a huge two-handed weapon that rivaled Micah's hammer in size. Whoa. When he slashed again, several heads went tumbling away, including some of those just now regrowing. All right, y'all yeah, he can grow it as long as he wants. Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. Regis has spun to the other side and was I mean, yeah, but have we seen it? But have we seen him grow his sword before? We haven't we haven't seen it before. Even back during the Victoria when he was fighting I'm forgetting. He was fighting Cadell. When he was fighting Cadell, remember Cadell had that big like spear, and it like stretched like all the way across and pushed him up against the mana barrier and whatever. Like, but we never seen Arthur do anything like that before. But yeah, like he's supposed to get to the point as potential wise. He's supposed to get to the point where he can be like that one dude from I can't remember the name of that show. What is it called? I can't think of it. I can't think of it. But he's supposed to be able to control like multiple swords and have them all flying all over the place, kind of like how he like she was doing during the fight that he had with one of the Jinn. So I mean, potentially he's going to be able to do that at some point. But this is just showing his steps in growing. Now he can grow this sword as big as Micah's hammer. That's crazy though. So Regis had spun on the other side and was unleashing another blast of pure fire that devoured any remaining terror leeches. Micah was out of sight, but Lyra, like me, was just staring up the fight overhead. As the heads formed and started to grow again, Arthur kicked off one of the trunks, hurling himself out of the way of the grinding mouth, then brought his huge blade over his head, swinging downward as he fell. Where Micah's hammer had done little to the Hydra worm's armored body, the ether blade cut effortlessly through the side of the gaping maw. As Arthur plummeted downward, he dragged the blades through the beast's body, opening up like a fillet fish. The humming screech came again, but as more and more of the towering body gaped open above the falling point of the light that was Arthur, the noise died into a grotesque gurgle. Then, feet for the acid pool around the Hydra worm's base, Arthur vanished into a violet flash, only to reappear back where he had been seconds earlier, wreathed in electricity. Black blood and green acid rained down from the gaps inside of the Hydra worm as it sprayed. So you literally tell me that nobody else could defeat this thing. And Arthur, all he did was get a big ass sword and just slice it in two, all the way down. Black blood and green acid rained down from the gaping insides of the hydra worm as it sprayed back and forth. Then it tipped towards us, and then the flaps of his open body pushed out from the rush of wind. Lyra darted back past us, and Boo moaned. Boo hasn't done anything yet. As he turned around and trotted further down the trail, putting more distance between us and where the body would fall. Arthur and Regis didn't move. Ground and acid exploded outward as the corpse struck the ground, crashing or crushing the trail we'd been following. The longest of the heads falling just at Arthur's feet. Then I lost sight of everything as a wall of dust and yellow steam engulfed the zone with a noise like the world coming apart. I closed my eyes against the stinging spray of acid and dust, feeling it prickling along my exposed skin wherever it touched me. Despite the mana cladding my skin, Boo rumbled out a worried groan, and I patted his neck comfortably. A gust of wind kicked up and pushed the what is that caustic mist away. Arthur and Regis were walking towards me and the fallen hydra worm behind them. Its stench was unimaginable. I felt Micah approaching before I saw her. She drifted out into the cloud, flying wearily, his skin covered in blisters from all the acid she's been splashed with. Parts of her armor were ripped open, and blood was oozing from several bite wounds. I mean, it's crazy that she got owned by this big sludge worm thing. Instead of landing on the ground, she settled onto Boo behind me, her back resting against mine, so she was facing towards Arthur and Regis. Micah thinks, here she going third person. Micah thinks this place kind of sucks, she said under her breath. You need to practice your mana rotation, Arthur said as he reached us. You didn't use it at all that entire fight. Right. He did teach them mana rotation because that was how they were going to figure out how to release the spell that was on their core. So yeah, so they need more training. Basically, they need more training. He should be able to do this with Regis as well. Yeah, it makes sense. Let's see what else. You need to practice your mana rotation. I felt Micah's head lean back onto her shoulder. Yes, Professor Lewin, she mumbled tiredly. And you were all distracted by what was in front of you, so you ignored what you couldn't see. He's literally out here giving lessons, man. He's giving lessons. Like Lyra's got to be older than him. Mike is obviously older than him, and he's out here giving battle lessons, man. That is so crazy. Just thinking like he's like what 20, 19, some shit like that. I don't know. I never know his age. And you were all distracted by what was in front of you, so you ignored what you couldn't see. The mana fluctuations from the main part of the body, mostly still underground, that happened every time you cut off a head. That happened every time you cut off a head. Should have told you where to strike. His frustrated gaze focused on me. Ellie, you should have been the first to notice this. Being on the back lines doesn't mean simply fighting from the back. You need to see the bigger picture and communicate with your allies. Giving out lessons, man. They failed. They've utterly failed. I mean, yeah. If you want to be technical, yeah, he's probably more like because I remember reading he died or he didn't actually die when Arthur was reincarnated. He said that he fell asleep and then he woke up as a baby in the new world, and I think he was in his 40s, like early 40s or something like that. So if you actually want to be technical, he's probably somewhere around like 60 or close to 60. But the acuity felt the sting of his rebuke, but I think that's how you say that. But could only respond with a firm nod, not trusting my voice to speak. The truth was, in that moment, Arthur didn't even quite feel like my brother. Not here in the Relic Tombs. The bond we had been reforming back in Vildoriel had stayed there. Here, he was a cold and distant teacher, an emotionless protector. Brotherly love was an obstacle, and so he was suppressing it. I wasn't sure how that made me feel. I didn't think I could isolate my feelings like that. My emotions are a part of who I am. Who is he, really, when he's like this? I mean, he's pretty much just playing a character. Like he's he's got to be that like drill sergeant that that cares about you but wants to see you reach your potential, right? And so he has to like be emotionless, give you your critiques and stuff like that, and tell you to improve. Otherwise, how are you going to know that you sucked and that you didn't do good if everybody's just coddling you the entire time and saying that it's okay, Ellie, you did the best you can? No, you sucked. Anyways, we should leave the zone quickly, Lyra said, just ahead of me. She was staring warily around at the surrounding pools. We need rest, but this is no place to set up camp. Arthur gestured for her to lead the way, and she did so, continuing in the direction where I had originally seen the distant glimmer of light. I'd never seen such strong mana beasts. I said into the following silence, trying to reduce the tension. How did the ancient mages ever create such a thing, and why? Alacria's most talented minds have been trying to figure that out for hundreds of years, Lyra answered over her shoulder. The ancient mages were a pacifist race, or so we believe. That they created things like this abomination, well, it seems contrary to our understanding of their nature. I was silent for a while, not having expected an answer to my rhetorical question. You did well, Eleanor, she continued. With practice, why is Lyra being so kind and nice to Ellie, giving her all this praise, talking about you're doing good, you did well. Maybe she's just trying to get on Arthur's his good side by giving her praise. Or maybe she's just being genuine and like maybe she used to teach a bunch of the other Alacrians, and so she's kind of like, doing that where, when they do good, she's like praising them for them doing good. Maybe she's not as evil and heartless as we might think. I don't know. With practice, you will be able to increase the range and number of conjured creations you can maintain. With enough willpower, you'll be able to make more complex and powerful manifestations as well. I am sure. I felt Micah shift behind me. I thought this spell form thing was for handing handing off mana or something. Oh, I felt a weave of embarrassment roll through me. Half turning, I set a hand on Micah's shoulder and focused on my spell form, pushing mana into it. That mana rushed out of me, flowing, following the course of Micah's mana veins into her core. Sorry, I almost forgot. Micah took a deep breath, relaxing against me. Thanks, kiddo. That's better. Lyra had turned around to look at us, and I caught her hiding a smile as she faced forward again. Most runes have multiple levels or phases of activation, becoming more powerful as the bearer grows. Stronger and gain as a bearer grows stronger and gains proficiency in the provided spells. Emblems and regalias often have potent innate effects as well, which do not require activation to provide their benefit. Oh, okay. So that makes sense why she said that it was still connected, even though she wasn't really focusing on it. So it was like a passive ability. Micah shook her head. Something I still don't understand. I guess why aren't all the Alacrian soldiers rocking a full body ink suit of these regalias and stuff then? If one little tattoo can nearly put a teenage girl into the silver core stage, why don't you guys have entire armies of white core mages or even beyond white core integration state? Wait, and here's this word integration again. Or even beyond white core integration stage mages. I've never heard them use white core and integration stage. The only time I've heard them use integration stage was when they were talking about their beast wills, integrating with their beast wills. But it's like now we're hearing integration stages with just their mana cores. Most bestowments do not result in a rune, Lyra explained. And when a rune is granted, it generally matches the capabilities of the bearer. Simply performing the ritual more times doesn't result in more runes. When a rune is granted, it generally matches the capabilities of the bearer. Simply performing the ritual more times doesn't result in more runes. It is said that in the early days of Alacria, the sovereigns attempted to do so as you suggested, forcing their subjects to undergo years of forced bestowments over and over again, even tattooing or burning the marks onto their flesh in an attempt to recreate the ancient mage's powers. Yay. Yeah, I mean, exactly. Exactly. I agree with you, Parth. That's what it all seems to me like. Like it's like this integration is being used as like this is like the level beyond white core. But the way it works with Cecilia is she's integrating with Phoenix's mana, but she also has Basilisk's mana as well. But I'm guessing it takes time and practice to actually fully integrate with the mana. But now I guess with the so let's think about Byron and the rest of the lances. So for them to get past white core, I'm guessing they're going to get into integration stage. But would it be like the same thing with Cecilia where they have to integrate with a certain type of mana, or maybe they integrate with their own mana, like a level beyond where they're at with white core? I don't know. I'm just kind of theorizing. Um, where am I at? Bestowments do not result in the room. So yeah, so they try to so multiple bestowments doesn't mean they're going to get multiple rooms. They say that it matches the capabilities of the bearer. So yeah, so that means that they can't. So like we thought, they can't just get like rune after rune after rune and just have like four different runes. But that don't even make sense though. But they have multiple. You have people who have multiple regalias. So how do they have multiple regalia? Do they have to like master the first regalia before they can get another regalia? Is that how it works? Most bestowments do not result in a rune, and when a rune is granted, it generally matches the capabilities of the bearer. Simply performing the ritual more times doesn't result in more runes. It is said that in the early days of Alakria, the sovereigns attempted to do as you suggested, forcing their subjects to undergo years of forced bestowments over and over again, even tattooing or burning the marks into their flesh in an attempt to recreate the ancient mage's power. But this is a little different than if your Daikathan mages were to inject ink into your cores. The color of a mage's core is a byproduct of a myriad of factors, such as lineage, talent, and insight, as is the reception of a spell form for an Alacrian mage. Right. Okay. So basically, I think the way I'm understanding is they have to have talent. So it's basically like potential, I guess, or talent doesn't necessarily mean potential. Talent, lineage, insight. So they just have to be stronger and better. And so I guess the stronger and more insightful you get with your regalia, the more regalias you can get. You can't just keep on spamming, bestows without having the necessary insight because it won't amount to anything. Is what I'm understanding. Let's see what you're saying. I assume there's another way since during the Epiotis training, Arthur was supposed to achieve integration, but he had to leave early. I don't remember that part. Achieve integration. I know he left a little bit early, but I know most of his training was focused on like the physical stuff. That's what he was doing with what was it? Coldry, I think his name was. That's why he was training with him. They said his main training would start after he achieved integration or something like that. Yeah, I'm not sure. So it's a byproduct of a bunch of different factors, which of course explains why these efforts were dismal failure, a dismal failure, and tens of thousands of people died. That, at least in part, led the High Sovereign to combine the bloodlines. Right, lineage. So he had to create a stronger lineage. The bestowment doesn't work on Asuras, but lesser, right, because their whole biology is completely different. But lesser physiology. See, I don't understand why are they lesser when they have more potential and more ability to be able to adapt and gain more insight and more power. But they're considered the lesser beings because they're lesser physically, and I guess also they're lesser as far as like the amount of mana that they have and the control over mana too. I mean, I guess I understand why they call them lessers, but whatever. But lesser physiology can be enhanced with Asuran blood, creating a new race of beings capable of handling more and stronger runes. Yeah, propaganda for sure. But then it's also like an ego thing, It's also like a hey, I don't know. Anyways, that's so creepy. I muttered a shiver running down my spine. An entire continent is bereathed as a or birth as an experiment in crossbreeding. Micah said, her tone suggesting she was thinking the same thing I was. But remember, Cecilia says, hey, you can't hold them to no reality, to no morality when it comes to lesser beings. You can do what they want because they're lessers. That's Cecilia's logic. Well, no, PVZ2. I agree. I mean, it makes sense because they're just better. I mean, they look at themselves as better in every way, but they're not though. They're not better in every way. They're actually envious because of what happened with the Jinn. That's why they did what they did to the Jinn. You know, so it's just it's more to me. It's just more like a ego dictatorship type of thing because they have the power. They enact and enforce that power upon whoever they can or whatever they can. It's a fucking dictatorship at the end of the day. They're just doing whatever they want and using whatever excuse they can or they have to say, "Hey, we're superior beings, so therefore you don't matter." I think they also did an analogy like, "Would you care about an ant that you stepped on?" So they look at lessers as just ants. Like you don't give a fuck about the ants that you step on. So we don't give a fuck about lessers because we consider you ants. But are they really ants when you had to make a plan to exterminate their entire species because you were jealous of their power and what they were capable of? So are they really ants or is this another ego play? Anyway, so Lyra's shoulders stiffened. One must step beyond the swamp to understand its fetid, fetid. What the fuck? What? I've never heard this word before. Let's see what this word is. Fetid. Let's see. I'm gonna turn the volume up a little bit more so we can probably hear it.
Fetid.
Fetid nature. Smelling extremely unpleasant. So beyond the swamp to understand its fetid nature. So okay. I promise my pride in being named retainer and regent was no less than yours when you were made a lance, Micah Earthborn. But experiencing a life outside the iron grip of the Vitcher clan, well, I don't think she does, Parth. I don't know. We don't know anything about Cecilia yet because she isn't herself yet. And that's why even talking about Cecilia is just like aggravated. And this is why the whole memory things, this is why I'm guessing this is why I'm understanding why people hate it when they have the trope inside series where they wipe their memories or it's like the same thing with people who's complaining about with One Piece and Sabo and his memory being gone. Like I understand like it complicates things when you have someone's memories altered and it just makes it more confusing and frustrating. Like I said, you can't really judge her because we don't really know who she is yet because she's still having influences from a grown up. I mean, what rational person would say there is no morality? You can't hold them to any sort of morality when you're dealing with lessers. When you're a lesser yourself, well, not really, because a grown up doesn't categorize her as a lesser. But like, still, it's just frustrating. But anyway, um, her stride slowed. Blah blah. Yeah, her stride slowed, and she looked up into the gloom and mist above us. At first, I thought it was Dicathans who were mad. Your disorganized and ramshackle brand of magic, the way you bent the knee to lesser kings and queens. Yeah, the whole kings and queens things, that shit's whack. Fucking, I ain't about to submit to no king and no queen. You know, fucking, it's a revolution, like Sarah said. Revolutionary army. Like poor imitations of our sovereigns. And all that freedom. How could anything ever get done when every man and woman was free to skitter across the surface of your continent like insects in the dark? Well, you see, we have this thing called free will, and you don't own and control everything that someone does. That you're free to do whatever you want as long as, well, they have certain laws, they have certain orders that you abide by. But other than that, if you abide by those orders, you're free to do whatever you want when you want because we don't own you and you're not controlled by sovereigns. So in actuality, it should be a more pleasant experience because you're more free. You don't have to be forced to do shit that you don't want to do. But anyways, she wouldn't know anything about that because she grew up in Alacrity under the sovereigns the entire time. So she doesn't understand it. Every man and woman was free to skitter across the surface of your continent like insects in the dark. But the longer I stayed in Dicathlon, the more clear it became to me which of us was mad. We walked in silence for a minute or more, growing close enough to the edge of the zone that everyone could see the curving stone wall and gleaming arch portal that Arthur would use to take us on to the next one. Yo, you guys are in here. I'm glad you guys are in here. But like the video. You guys gotta like the video. Even though we got more than half a like, so that's cool too. But it looks like we're almost done with the chapter though. Um, how many Dicathons do you think you've killed? Micah asked suddenly. I could feel her body tense against my back. By my own hand? Lyra asked without hesitation. Hundreds, I imagine. On my command. Oh wait, yeah. So she said by my own hand, hundreds. On my command, tens of thousands at the very least. Already tired and on the edge, my stomach soured at the thought of all that death. So many people were killed in this war, and for what? I glanced over my shoulder at Arthur, expecting him to intervene, to stop Micah and Lyra from falling into another fit of bickering. He was looking away from us, his profile clear against the dim backdrop of the zone, and I realized, oh, appreciate the likes, you guys. Appreciate it. That's great. Great job. His stiff gat, the slight frown on his sharp features. My brother was a million miles away. I wondered which of his many adventures was on his mind now. With the Hydra worm's corpse still visible in the distance behind us, it seemed impossible that anyone could be thinking of anything but that fight. It seemed to be consuming only me. Arthur had been through so much, and although he told me plenty of stories, I knew there was more he was leaving out. Was this talk about the war and all the unnecessary deaths making him feel guilty? It probably is, I thought. He blames himself for not being able to come back sooner, not being strong enough. And what about you, Lance? Lyra asked. How many Alacrians have you killed? Not enough. Look at the hypocrite. Man, you can't be a hypocrite. You can't criticize someone for killing your people, but then when the response is, "Oh, how many of my people have you killed?" "Oh, not enough people." Like, what the fuck kind of shit is that? Like, I mean, it's a war at the end of the day. Like, one side is going to kill another side is going to kill another side. Like, that's just part of the war. I mean, I don't know. But you can't be a hypocrite and be like, "Oh, not enough. I should have killed more of your people." Oh, so it's okay for you to kill my people, but it's not okay for me to kill your people. Micah, man, Micah is just Byron wouldn't have reacted that way. Veray, she wouldn't have responded that way. Micah's so childish. Not enough, Micah shot back. Hostility oozing from those two simple words. Then, after a second's hesitation, she added, "Or far too many. I won't know, I suppose, until this is all done." Okay. That's an interesting response. So maybe she thought about her words and she was like, you know what, or far too many. "We're here," I said as the zone rose up in front of us. The only breach in the dark stone, a single carved arch. The portal inside the frame was softly luminescent. But wherever that portal led, I knew it wasn't. So they're going to the next zone. I knew it wasn't where we were going. Oh wait, wherever that portal led, I knew it wasn't where. Arthur seemed to come back to reality, marching ahead of us, drawing a metallic half sphere from his dimension storage. The path forward isn't completely clear. Let me see what you guys are saying. Yeah, I mean, for sure, Marcin. I mean, when someone continues, but then but they never knew that they were weak because they only knew like the lessers, quote unquote, right? They only knew that they were weak is because they never had anybody to compare themselves to other than their own group of people. So they only knew they were weak in comparison to like the lances and the silver core mages. So obviously, somebody who's in like an orange core mage would think they're weak in comparison to a lance or a silver core professor or something like that. Where you go to Alacria, a person who has a crest or an emblem, they're going to see themselves as weak from someone who has a regalia, or someone who's a retainer, or someone who's a scythe, or the sovereigns themselves, which they call gods. So I mean, if you actually think about it, they never really had anybody to compare themselves to until the deities showed up. And then it's like, oh, compared to the deities, you guys are ants. You guys can't even, you can throw out your strongest spells and it literally does nothing, you know? So, I mean, now they're thinking of themselves as weak, but it is psychological. A lot of these things, these games are doing the psychological. But like I said, the Asuras, they're envious at the same time. They talk all this shit about the Lessers, but they're jealous of them. That's why they did what they did with the Jinn. Yeah, I agree with you too, Parth, about Micah's character development. I think that's also part of when she has started to take away the whole third person. She started to get rid of the third person talk after Aya's death. You know, when Arthur came back and I ended up dying, that's when she finally stopped the third person talk. But anyway, let's see what's going on now. So we're here. Arthur's saying to come back. Okay, the opaque portal became translucent. Oh my god, we're ending the chapter. The opaque portal became translucent like an open door, and several images melted in and out of focus in quick succession on the other side. I have a map in my head, but it's just pictures. The way to the next gen room or ruin, the next keystone is confused. It might take us a few tries. We're in this together, I said, immediately embarrassed by the childish optimism that came out in my voice. Micah slid off of Boo's back. So he's actually not just going to any random place, like he's actually trying to go to the next ruins for the that's in his head that Sylvia had left him. So then yeah, Micah slid off Boo's back, her gaze moving from Lyra to me, then to Arthur. Hopefully the next zone or whatever smells better than this place, yeah? Lyra shook her head, her flame red hair tumbling around her shoulders. Rarely do the zones become more pleasant as you ascend further. Micah rolled her eyes and threw her hands up. So my hopes of us finding a resort complete with hot springs and honey wine are out of the window. With a wry, humorless smile, Arthur gestured to the portal on a one way to find out. So we're okay. So we're actually going to get to the rooms that's in Arthur's head that Sylvia had left. And so he said it's a little bit foggy or hazy or whatever. So he said it's gonna take a few tries. And so that's what they're leading to. So I'm guessing when he gets to these ruins again, it's gonna be another test, right? With like the Jinn. Are they gonna be upset that no, they probably won't be upset that they have somebody with richer blood because Kara was with them and they wasn't upset. But but yeah, so I guess he's gonna have another interaction with one of the Jinn and another test. Um, Micah, and you think Micah and Lyra will be buds? I wouldn't say buds. I would probably say they will be, they will be cordial with one another. It won't be these like little jabs that they have with each other. But I don't know. But we don't really know how long they're going to be in the relic tombs anyway. As far as like in relic tomb time, not like in Earth time, not Earth time, but in the real world time. But this chapter was good though. This chapter was good. I really was expecting for us to continue with Cecilia and her memories and stuff, but I guess he decided to just change it up and go back to the relatives, which is cool. So I'm wondering if I don't think that's gonna happen. But anyway, but yeah, so that's pretty much it for the chapter though. I'm gonna do another poll though, because I kind of like doing the polls. And I also appreciate you guys for responding and voting into the polls. I kind of want to see what you guys think as far as like where your minds are at as far as some of these characters and what's been happening with them. But I'll probably come up with a poll for this chapter. But remember when Arthur had met with so he's going to one of the other rooms, right? But remember when Arthur had met with one of the Jinn had said that it was like underwhelmed, that they thought that Arthur would be even more powerful, that he'd be even more developed. And so if you think about it, I guess in comparison to the Jinn's expectations, Arthur hasn't even gotten as strong as he should be. You know, because think about it. If he's where he's at right now, and he's this strong, which he's strong as hell, but he's this strong, and but the Jinn are still underwhelmed in saying that you're not as strong as you should be, or your potential. Considering your potential, you haven't tapped into it as much as I expected. So, how strong would he have to be to go beyond their expectations? Where like the next time he meets with a Jinn, they're just like, "Oh wow, like you've developed nicely. You know, you're exceeding my expectations considering your ether core and blah blah blah." I'm kind of just wondering about that. But yeah, her memories are crazy with Cecilia and stuff. You see Lyra is warming up to me. Lyra is warming up to me after this chapter. So I agree with this. Like she's kind of she seems more empathetic. She's not she's not stupid. She's not stupid at all. Which is why she submitted to Arthur and everything like that. Like she seems to have more empathy than we thought. She's not just like mindless killer. Like I'm starting to kind of see Lyra. She could potentially be like an actual true ally who like wouldn't betray Arthur. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe. We know she's afraid of Agrona. I don't know. But Lyra's warming up to me too. Lyra's warming up to me too for sure. Right. Yeah, that was a little that was I mean back when they had said that about what Arthur responded to you strategist back when they said that about Arthur, it was a long ways away, but he still was like he still was strong. He still was like near scythe strength in comparison back when that was said. So I think that was when he was doing the training with the sword so that way he can like conjure ether sword and he getting better and better and better at it. I think that's when he was doing that with the Jinn who created those battle robes. I think that's when it had happened. So it wasn't that long ago, if I'm correct or whatever. But anyways, I'm about to end the stream here soon. But here's what I'm gonna do, you guys. So I plan on going and looking at some. I plan on talking about the actual comic releases too, right? Because one of the things I found out from the comic is I guess some of the story is being changed a little bit in the comic releases, and so I kind of want to analyze some of the comic chapters and kind of be able to just tell you guys tell like the differences between the actual novel story and then the comic change. Because I remember the I was reading part of the comic, and it was the part where Arthur was training with Winsome, right? And he had the bells. You remember he had the bells and stuff, and he was fighting that bear that was possessed by that parasite thing. But they didn't really explain like he defeated the bear, but they didn't really explain what was happening. Like they didn't really explain how he used burst step and it fucked up his legs, and that was the only reason why he was able to beat the bear. Like it's like they didn't show that and explain that, and so that the next chapter when he wakes up and Myers like treating him and stuff like that, they didn't really show that his legs was messed up and how he didn't want to use it again because his legs was like torn to shreds. It was something along those lines. It was a while ago, but that's why I kind of want to like do like comparisons, like to see like what's changed. So I think that'd be cool to do. But but yeah, I mean, I enjoy. That's why I make videos about the novel because the novel is just way better. The story is just better. It's more details. You get more insight as far as what characters are thinking, why they're doing why they're doing what they're doing. You know, it's like better character development because the comic is just an adaptation of the novel, but it's condensed. You know, it's like a shortened version of the novel. So that's why I'm just like I rather just stick to the novel and not even really mess with the comics. I don't even really read the comics like that, but I know people like pictures and stuff to look at, so that's why obviously that's going to be more popular. But but that's why like even doing these videos, I understand that the engagement isn't going to be all the way 100% because it's nothing to look at. You know, it's different when you're reacting to a video. It's different when you're reacting to, you know, the comic. You're reading chapters. You know, you got the One Piece. You got the Bleach and stuff. You got the mangas and stuff. But when you don't have anything but just text, people don't want to read. People don't want to like just listen to text and stuff. People don't read anymore. You know, they like pictures. So so I knew it'd be different, but that's why I just kind of like the novel stuff. Yeah, I'm gonna do both. I'm gonna do both. I'm not gonna stop with the novel. I'm gonna do both. I'm gonna do comic and novel. But but I just kind of want to like I just kind of want to go through and like kind of just even for myself just trying to figure out what exactly changed. So maybe some of the people who is reading the comic and they don't understand what's happening or what had happened, I can kind of just explain like what really happened in this situation and explain some of the differences, and maybe it'll get them to read the novel, and then they can join us and start coming on here live and just reacting to the chapters one by one. So it might lead more people to go into the novel when they see how much better the novel is than the comic. But yeah, so another thing about the comic videos too is that I know and that's another thing too, because I haven't been looking at the comics at all. I have no idea how some of these characters look, right? Because I remember I was looking at the comic and I was looking at Kez's drawing. I was really excited to see how Kez's was going to be drawn, and I thought he was drawn pretty spot on. Like he looks exactly like how he's super young, but they explained it in the story that he looked really really young, to hide his age and whatnot. But yeah, I'm really excited to see how they're going to look, the race, how they're going to look. I'm really curious to see how the Phoenix that's like trapped inside the dungeon with Agrona, how she's going to look with her whole red fiery hair. That's going to be really cool to find out. Who else haven't we seen? We haven't seen how Lyra looks. We haven't seen how Ceres looks. Have we? Ceres. Have we seen? No, we haven't seen Ceres yet. No, we haven't seen Ceres. So we haven't seen Ceres yet. We haven't seen Agrona yet. So yeah, I'm really excited to see some of these people. And I think it was what was it? Ren. I think we got Ren. We saw how Ren had looked. I think I kind of remember how he had looked. Lady Dawn. Yeah, exactly. Lady Dawn. Um, exactly. When his dad dies, man, that's gonna be crazy. That's gonna be. But another thing too, though. So when I make the comic videos, I want to do it to where we're not like spoiling everybody, because I'm pretty sure people who's gonna only read the comments, they might stumble upon the video and watch it. But I don't really want to spoil them and let them know like what happens in the future. It's more gonna be like a reacting to what's happening right now and how certain drawings are, and then what might be missing in the comic that I could explain that actually happened in the novel. And so maybe that'll entice people to go to the novel and actually start reading it if they want to go ahead of time. Because honestly, the story gets much better once Sylvie sacrifices herself and Arthur wakes up in the Relic Tombs and we get Regis. Like it's like I was enjoying the story. The story was like, for me, the story was like an 8 out of 10. But then once we got to the part where he woke up in the Relic Tombs and we got Regis and his crude humor and the cursing and all the other stuff and the dynamics between him and Arthur, it went to 11 out of 10 for me there. Like it really like upped it. Like it was like his whole interactions with Alacria was just it made the story it made this. It's like it's two parts of the story. You got the first part, him growing up in Dicathon and the whole him being a professor and all that stuff, being a lance, and then it's like another part of the story where he's a ether wielding fucking god killer with Regis as his sidekick, and him adapting to the Alacrians, and then having empathy for the Alacrians, and like him slowly starting to be fond of them, and then him coming back and like not wanting to kill him. Like I thought all that shit was amazing. So book 8. Yeah, it starts in book 8. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm excited about. But yeah, we seen Ceres. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it yet. I told you I haven't read the comic, so I have no idea how she looks. Because I think we first see Ceres when she saves Arthur from Uto when Sylvie and Arthur are fighting him. And remember, she put her hand through his cord, destroyed his cord, cut off his horn, and gave it to him. That was the first time we seen him, and that was after. Yeah, so that was after the fight. No, that was after the fight with Aya, and the dwarf lands. What was the dwarf lands? I can't think of his name. I can't think of his name, but that was after that fight, and then he went with Uto and fought him. And then, so if we're already in that part of the comic, then we're more ahead than I actually thought. So, but yeah, so I'm excited about all that stuff. Yeah, I don't know where we're at in the comic yet, so but I'm gonna make some videos about it though. And kind of like break down some of it. I have to go back to the actual because the way I listen to this, the way I read the stories, I listen to the audio with Travis Boltry is is the voice. He's phenomenal, man. He's excellent. It's crazy what he does with like the voice acting and stuff. So that's like I think that's the best way to read it. But yeah, I'm gonna go back and make videos about that too though. But but yeah, man. So like the art, I'm looking forward to like the art and stuff and how some of these people are going to look. I was really surprised. Tell me if you guys thought the same thing. I was really surprised the way that the little sample art that Turtle Me had made uh for Kiros. I didn't really expect for him to look like that. You know, because like the Asuras all maybe it's just the Basilisk Asuras, but the Asuras all kind of like the way it's described is that they're like sleek. Like look at Winsome, look at Winsome, look at Aldir. They look like more human like. They're like sleek and like, you know, they look more like humans. Whereas um what the fuck is it? Kiros, he didn't look anything like he looked like an ogre type of creature looking thing. He didn't look human at all. And so maybe it's just because the Basilisk race, maybe that's kind of how they look. But then is Agrona gonna look like that? I don't really know. But I was kind of surprised at the way maybe he might change it. Maybe that's not how he's gonna make him look in the actual comic. But you said that Ceres was in the same picture as Kara. I don't know what that means because I don't think we're in the story where we don't know. I mean, we know how Kara looks as far as like the book cover, but we haven't actually met Kara in the actual comic story because I'm talking about the comic. You said we already seen Agrona too in the comic. We haven't seen Agrona in the comic. I don't think we've seen Agrona in the comic. We've seen Uto in the comic. We've seen Cadell in the comic. We haven't seen Agrona in the comic. Am I crazy? Am I crazy? I don't think I'm crazy. I mean, I know I haven't come up with the comic yet, but I know that the last part of the comic I seen was when Arthur was training with Ren, and that was it. Like he still had to come back and deal with Tessia. Like Tessia haven't even gotten reincarnated, or not Tessia, but Cecilia hasn't even gotten reincarnated with Tessia yet. You know, so yeah, I'm sure we haven't either. Yeah, Arthur just came back from Ephiodus. Yeah, that's the part. That's the part I was around. Like I was around the part when he was training. Um, yeah. I was talking about the comic. I was talking about the comic. But yeah. So that's what I was talking about. You know, looking forward to some of the drawings that they have for the new characters. And so we know how Myra looks, and you know all the other main characters. Um, who else are we waiting to? Who else are we waiting to see? We're waiting to see Agrona. We're waiting to see Ceres. We're waiting to see Kara, even though we kind of already know how Kara looks from the book cover. Um, what's the dude? What's the dude that helped Arthur out with the drunk who lost his kid? Alaric. I think it's one of those two. I'm curious to see how he's gonna look. Um, who else? Um, I mean, that's really about it. I mean, the students that he teach, it'd be cool to see how they look too. And then the fight, man, it's so much. It's so much to look forward to. It's so much to look forward to and see how it's actually going to look in the comic. So, yeah, Alaric, exactly. So yeah, so we saw Nico. We saw Nico. Nico doesn't look that much different than how he looked as what the fuck was his name was Elijah. He don't look that different from how he looked as Elijah. But I wonder if Tessie is gonna, or not Tessie, but Cecilia is gonna look any different from the way that Tessia looks. Maybe he's gonna do something to kind of distinguish the difference between Tessia and Cecilia somehow. But but yeah, man, there's a lot of stuff to look forward to. There's a lot of stuff to look forward to. But yeah, so like I said, I'm gonna do comic reviews. Okay, so another thing that I've heard is that people have problems with, I guess, putting the images on the screen, and so people might be getting copywritten, or they might be, which sucks, man, because it's just like if you're not just putting up the images and not commentating over it, you just literally just got all the images and pretending like the material is yours, then I understand getting copywritten for that. But like if you're adding other context and creating other content along with it and using that as like an example, that shit shouldn't be copywritten. But I'm not sure if I'll be able to like put the images up there. I mean, I would want to. I don't know. Eventually, I want to see if people actually like watching stuff on Twitch because I remember I got asked a question if I had a Twitch or not, which I do have a Twitch. I just haven't uploaded anything on there. Um, I'll have to download some type of software to do some sort of like dual stream type of thing. Man, this shit gets expensive, man. It really gets expensive. But well, the 1 month break, yeah, because I remember, yeah, Turtle had talked about how he after a book, what is it, 10 gets released, that he's going to take a month break. Yeah, I release videos during that. I got so many ideas of different stuff to kind of go over because I want to go over some of the previous stuff in the novel too, in some of the chapters. Like I want to kind of go over some of the previous things. So like even like when Arthur first like went above like second phase and he went to like third phase and he created a fucking portal to get Tessia and all the rest of them back to the sanctuary and shit. Like that whole scene was crazy. I don't know. It was dope. But yeah, I'll do discussion video. I'm gonna do a bunch of different stuff. I gotta just figure it all out. I gotta figure it all out. And it takes a lot of time too, to be honest. It takes a whole lot of time. Theories, I don't know. I'll be speculating. Theories kind of come to me like organically. I'll be reading something and I might be thinking about something. And I mean, y'all seen me talk about things while I'm reading the chapter. I might think of something as I'm reading it. But I don't really like sit down and like deeply try to think about like different ways that predictions. I don't know. I don't know. I'm thinking about more about whether or not Tessia even is going to come back or not. That's like the one thing I'm thinking about. Is she actually going to come back? It would suck if she doesn't come back. But I don't know. This whole Cecilia thing, she really needs to like get in her right mind so we can actually know who she really is and judge her off of her actions off of that. But anyway, you guys, I'm going on long. I'm gonna get up out of here. I appreciate you guys staying on for as long as you did. I appreciate the likes and everything. And I'm gonna do a review of this chapter. I'm gonna go over and reread the chapter. I'm gonna do a review. I'm I'm gonna get some comic reviews at some point soon. Maybe sometime next week. Maybe it might be in the next couple of days. I'm not really sure, but if you guys follow me, you will see it coming. But anyway, I appreciate you guys joining the stream and having the conversations, man. It's dope. That's the reason why I started the channel in the first place. And yeah, I'm gonna do more lives. I got my web camera now, even though it's not great. It's not great, but we're starting out. We're gonna level up. We're gonna level up, get better cameras, get better audio. It's gonna be dope. But anyway, I appreciate you guys joining me, and I'll check you guys out next time. Peace.